I'm making this video because I just finished the most difficult Lego build that I've ever put together. It's this little monster right here. This is the classic car, which is from the Lego Build It book, Amazing Vehicles. And I thought it'd be fun to share this with you and show you just why I had so much trouble putting it together. Now, before we get into this build, I just want to be very clear that this is not an official Lego set. Again, this is from a book that I downloaded called the Lego Build It book, Amazing Vehicles. I've built several models from this. In fact, I'll link to the last one that I built, that is the muscle car. You'll see a suggested video pop up here, and I'll also put it in the description. In that video, I said I would build the classic car, which is what you're looking at here. And there's no mistaking this. This is a beautiful model. I love the way it looks. It's definitely a complicated one, which we'll get into in a bit. It's got a couple functions here. The doors open up. That's about it. The seats kind of move back and forth a little bit. I don't know if that's by design or if that's just the way they are. That became a point of contention while I was building this, but again, we'll talk about that in a bit. I'll go around the back of this. Look at the curves. I mean, there's not a whole lot of tile pieces in this set or anything like that, but they were able to get the curves looking pretty good on this. Nice swoop going down the back here, and you also have that rounded back end. Nothing really for a bumper at all. You can see the exhaust coming out of the bottom there. The sides just looks great. It sits very low. And then the front, I think the front is definitely the highlight of this. Look how wide that is. This definitely harkens back to a classic car. The hood is just huge. And you can kind of see into there where the engine would be. Unfortunately, there is no engine in this build. Well, maybe fortunately, because this used a lot of pieces. In fact, all I have left are what you see right there behind the car out of the entire build that this came out of. And I think, let me look at this. This was a 278 piece set that I built this from, so this is probably 250 pieces. And it took me a long time to build, and there was a lot of difficulties, and I'll kind of go over that with you right now, and we'll take a look at it on my iPad. I dimmed the lights a little bit so you can see this, hopefully. This book gives ratings on 3 different categories. So complexity, this got a 3 out of 3, which I 100% agree with. Functions, a 2 out of 3, which if you consider the doors opening a 2 out of 3, I don't know, I'm gonna say a 1 out of 3 on that. And then pieces, definitely 2 out of 3. This used pretty much all of them, as I showed you earlier. And I know you already got to see the car, but they always share some really nice photos. And my favorite one is definitely that angle right there. Imagine at this point, if you're watching this and you're a Lego collector, you're probably wondering why I had so much trouble building this. Well, I can show you a couple things. As the build starts out, nothing too bad, but then you end up flipping it over. And the interesting thing is that the build stays flipped over. So the way you see that there, that actually becomes where you start building at. And I'll flip to the next page here. So you can see that, like, this is 20 steps and I'm on step 8. This is 1 step. Can you imagine if a Lego set came out that was 1 step? I know they're usually meant for younger kids. And in fact, I think that this Creator set that I'm looking at, that's for ages 7 to 12, the build that this came from. So can you imagine that? Just being 1 step in a Lego build. It would be unheard of. So as you go on, you're building, so that's going on, that's the little back clip there. And we slide over to the next step. This is step 9. You can see just how much goes into this. These are all little sub-steps within that. And then that just whole clip goes right into the front there. So you're not really talking about anything too crazy yet. This is something that tripped me up a little bit. This is about as close as I can get to this step without it going out of focus. This dashboard steering wheel set right here gave me a lot of trouble. I was trying to figure out how they got that steering wheel on the side like that. And it was one of those setups where they kind of put it on like a half stud and slid it over a little bit. I ended up figuring it out, but I was kind of looking at that like, what the heck's going on? This is really all you have to go off of is what they have here, and then it's all of a sudden in the car. So that was a little bit of a problem. But honestly, the worst time that I had in this build was on this step right here, step number 12. You're putting this contraption together, which ends up becoming the seats. And I didn't have any trouble actually putting it together. It was when you put it in the car down here, it doesn't actually click into place. It's just slid in there. And it sits there for quite a few steps until it actually works out. And I'll flip through this so you can see that. I mean, the whole time you're putting these doors on, those seats are just sitting there. They could slide all over the place. They didn't actually fit very well. I didn't know what was going on, but I put both the doors on. You get to this back clip, and you can see this is step 16, so we're getting down to the end here out of 20 steps. And you're just throwing pieces at this thing, throwing pieces at it, going on. When you get here, and you put that on, that's supposed to sit in there real nice, and that's what actually clips the seats in. I had a heck of a time trying to fit that on there because these doors also didn't want to fit properly, and this piece right here wasn't sitting in there very well. It was all just coming apart, and I was having a heck of a time getting it together. I got that clipped in, the seats were in. The back part of this really is nothing bad. That's where you put the hood on, but that again becomes quite an extensive step. And then finally you're over here and the car is almost done. You put the little front piece on that has the headlights, and then at the very end, you just put the wheels on and the mirrors on the side. So it was pretty crazy. So now that you got a taste of the manual, I'll show you the car and some of the things I was talking about. We'll start at the bottom. See how that's upside down? You could actually build on the bottom of this, which is kind of cool. I mean, a lot of these things that I'm complaining about made this an interesting build, but man, it was complex. Let me show you the seats. So in fact, I'll actually take this back part off. I mean, this is going to break the whole thing, but look at the complexity of this. You can see the pieces that are all different ways, and this isn't something you would commonly see in a Lego build. But the seats, somehow they kind of come off like that, and they see how they rotate around. Even when they're in there, they didn't really sit in there properly. But it's all right. And then I'll show you the doors. They kind of come off like that, and then I don't know. I'm just taking this whole thing apart. They didn't really want to sit in there very well, but you can kind of see how they are. And that's probably the weakest part of this build, is you see that piece that's coming out right there. The doors kind of slope in like that. And then that piece kind of shows from the top, and I don't really like that. The mirrors are okay, they kind of move. Maybe they consider that a function, I don't know. The mirrors moving back and forth, that's why I got a 2 out of 3. And then I'll take the front, see if I can take this front clip off. That's what it looks like inside there. So when you're building this stuff, everything kind of just slides together like that, which is kind of cool. But see inside there? All kinds of different configurations of things, and that's holding a piece on. Hidden stuff in here that you don't even see, which is kind of neat. But man, this was something, and now it's nothing. Went from something to nothing, and that was my most difficult Lego build that I've ever put together. I know there's people that are going to watch this and be like, man, I put together things that are 10 times more complicated than that, and I don't doubt that. I'm just comparing this to other creator sets that I've built and things that I've seen from that book. In fact, I have the whole paperback version of the sequel to this book here, and this was the hardest build out of all these. And if you want to see the set that this came from, this is the one. And again, this is a very easy build, and with with Lego's manuals, I'll get it out here for you. I was showing you the steps there with that build. Take a look at these ones. Not really much of a comparison, is it? But again, I think the difficulty of this makes it fun to put together, and I'd like to find more things to challenge myself. One set that I've heard that is very difficult to put together is that Porsche 911 that came out, the Technic set that came out from, I think, last year. So I'll have to give that a shot. That'll make this thing look like child's play. But again, I just wanted to share this with you, share my most difficult build. You got to see the classic car and get a taste of the Lego Build It book. I highly recommend it. If you can pick that setup that I just showed you and get the book, you got 10 different builds out of that, plus the 3 builds that come with the set. So pick it up if you get a chance. I thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.